I'm standing in a courthouse lobby, 28 years old, staring at the legal papers in my trembling hands. My parents are suing me, not for hurting anyone, not for stealing. They're suing me because I bought a house with my own money, a 3-bedroom ranch I saved 12 years for. They want me to hand over the deed to my 32-year-old sister who has never held a job longer than 4 months. My mother won't even look at me. My father's lawyer is walking toward us, smiling. The fluorescent lights buzz overhead as I sit on the hard wooden bench, and my mind drifts back to where this all began. Not yesterday, not last month. This started 13 years ago when I was 15 years old, standing in the kitchen of our cramped apartment, asking my parents if they could help me buy notebooks for school. My father barely looked up from his newspaper. Ask your sister if she has any old ones you can use. My mother was busy packing Diane's lunch for her college orientation visit. Catherine, honey, you're so resourceful. I'm sure you'll figure something out. Your sister is going through a really stressful time right now with all these college applications. Diane was 18 then, 3 years older than me, and everything in our house revolved around her needs, her stress, her future. I watched my mother tuck a $20 bill into Diane's purse for spending money while I stood there with empty hands. That afternoon I walked to the diner 6 blocks from our house and asked if they were hiring. The manager, a gruff man named Carl with gray stubble and kind eyes, looked at my small frame and said, "You even old enough to work?" "I will be in 2 weeks," I lied. I was still 3 months from my actual birthday. He hired me anyway to bus tables on weekends. $5 an hour plus a cut of the tips. I bought my own notebooks that week and a backpack from the thrift store. By 16, I was working 2 jobs. The diner on weekends and a retail position at a clothing store in the mall on weekday evenings. I'd come home at 10 at night, do my homework by flashlight so I wouldn't wake anyone, and get up at 6 for school. My grades stayed solid. I made honor roll every semester. Meanwhile, Diane got a brand new car for her 19th birthday. A silver sedan with a bow on top, parked in our driveway like something from a commercial. My parents took photos, celebrating their generous gift. When I turned 16 2 months later, I got a card with $15 inside and a note that said, "For our independent girl." I spent that $15 on bus fare to get to my jobs. Diane went to the state university with every expense paid. Tuition, room, board, textbooks, spending money. She called home twice a week asking for more cash. I need new clothes for a sorority event. My laptop is too slow. Everyone else has money to go out. My parents refinanced the house to cover it all. I heard them talking late at night about second mortgages and payment plans, but they always said the same thing. Diane needs our help. She's struggling to find herself. When I graduated high school at 18, I had $3,200 saved. I moved into a tiny studio apartment that smelled like mildew and old carpet, 40 minutes from my jobs. The first night there, I sat on my second-hand futon and cried with relief. It was mine. I paid for it. Nobody could take it away, because nobody gave it to me. I enrolled in community college, taking classes between shifts. Business administration. I wanted skills that would get me a real career, not just jobs. Every semester, I paid tuition from my savings, watched the balance drain, then built it back up again. During this time, I still went to family dinners every few weeks. Sunday lunches where my mother made pot roast and my father carved the meat. Diane would be there, complaining about her professors, her roommates, how hard college was. She changed her major 4 times. Communications, psychology, art history, English literature. "I just need to find my passion," she'd say, pushing food around her plate. My parents would nod sympathetically. "Take your time, sweetie. We support you." I'd sit there in my discount store clothes, my hands rough from dishwashing and folding clothes, and nobody would ask about my life. When I mentioned I made the dean's list, my mother would smile vaguely and say, "That's nice, dear. Diane, tell Catherine about your new creative writing class." By 20, I had my associate degree. By 23, I finished my bachelor's while working full-time at a property management company. I started as a receptionist and worked my way up to assistant manager. I was good with numbers, good with people, good at solving problems. My boss, a woman named Sandra, told me I had real potential. At 25, I paid off my last student loan. The final payment of $173.42. I made the payment online, watched the balance go to zero, and sat at my desk at work feeling something I'd never felt before, completely unburdened. That same year, Diane graduated college after 6 years. No job prospects. She moved back home and took over her old bedroom. My parents were thrilled to have her back. I visited for her graduation party. The house was full of relatives congratulating Diane on her achievement. I brought a card with $50 inside, money I'd budgeted from my grocery fund. Diane hugged me and whispered, "Must be nice to have a real job already. Some of us need time to figure things out." I wanted to scream that I'd been working since 15, that I'd figured it out by necessity, not choice. Instead, I smiled and said, "You'll find something perfect for you." 2 years passed. Diane didn't find anything. She'd apply to a few positions, get interviews she'd never prepare for, then come home and tell my parents the company just wasn't the right fit or the commute would be too stressful. My parents believed every word. They paid for everything: car insurance, cell phone, credit cards, for clothes and entertainment. She had an allowance of $1,200 a month for expenses. I knew because I overheard my father on the phone with the bank, discussing transfers. Meanwhile, I got promoted to office manager at 26. My salary jumped to $52,000 a year. For the first time in my life, I had breathing room. I started saving seriously. Not just a little each month, but real money. $500, then $700, then $1,000. I had a goal. I wanted to buy a house. A real house. Something that was mine, that I could paint any color I wanted, where I could plant flowers in the yard and not worry about a landlord selling the property. I researched everything: mortgages, down payments, interest rates, closing costs. I met with a financial advisor at my bank who helped me set up a plan. In 2 years, with my current savings rate, I could have a down payment. At a family dinner when I was 27, my father asked what I was doing with all my money. "You must be saving quite a bit." "I am," I said carefully. "I'm hoping to buy a house soon." My mother's face lit up. "Oh, that's wonderful. You could help Diane get into a place too. Maybe you two could buy something together." I felt my stomach drop. "I don't think that would work. I'm looking at something small, just for me." Diane looked hurt. "You don't want to live with me?" "It's not that. I've been planning this for a long time. It's something I need to do on my own." The table went quiet. My father cleared his throat. "Family helps family, Catherine. Your sister could really use some stability." I changed the subject, but the tension lingered through dessert. 6 months before I bought the house, my parents invited me to a special Sunday dinner, just the 4 of us. They said they wanted to discuss something important. I sat at the dining table while my mother brought out lasagna. My father poured wine. Diane smiled at me like we were about to celebrate something together. "We've been thinking," my father started, folding his hands on the table. "Diane needs to get into her own place. She's 31, and it's time for her to have some independence." I nodded. That seemed reasonable. "The problem is her credit," my mother continued. "She's had some issues with late payments, and her score isn't where it needs to be for a mortgage." I felt the trap before they even sprung it. "You have excellent credit," my father said. "We've done some research, and if you co-sign on a house for Diane, she could get approved. You wouldn't have to live there or anything. Just help her get started." I stared at them. "You want me to co-sign a mortgage for Diane?" "It's not a big deal," Diane said quickly. "You wouldn't be responsible for anything. I'd make all the payments." "If you're co-signing, you're legally responsible if she doesn't pay." My father waved his hand dismissively. Your sister will pay. We'll make sure of it. This is just to help her get approved. Think of it as giving her a hand up, the way we've helped you over the years. The way they'd helped me. I almost laughed. What help did you give me? My mother looked wounded. Catherine, we've always been there for you. You've given Diane over $1,000 a month for 6 years. You paid for her car, her college, everything. I've been working since I was 15. You never gave me a dime. That's not fair, Diane said, her voice rising. You never needed help. Everything came easy for you. Easy? I stood up. I worked 2 jobs through high school. I paid for my own education. I've never asked you for anything. That was your choice, my father said coldly. We offered to help. You always said you were fine. I realized then that they'd rewritten history in their minds. They genuinely believed they'd offered me support that I'd turned down, not that they'd simply never offered. I can't co-sign for Diane, I said quietly. I'm sorry. My mother started crying. After everything we've done for this family, you can't do this one thing for your sister? What have you done for me? The words came out sharper than I intended. My father stood. I think you should leave. I grabbed my purse and walked out. Behind me, I heard Diane saying, See? She's always been selfish. I drove home shaking. That night, I blocked most of my extended family on social media and silenced my parents' numbers. I needed space. They didn't call for months. A door slams somewhere in the courthouse, snapping me back to the present. I looked down at the lawsuit papers again, at my parents' names listed as plaintiffs. The memory of buying my house 3 months ago floods back with painful clarity. I'd been working with a real estate agent named Cheryl, a patient woman in her 50s who understood I was a first-time buyer doing this completely alone. We looked at 17 houses over 2 months. Some were too expensive. Some needed too much work. Some just didn't feel right. Then we walked into a 3-bedroom ranch in a quiet neighborhood 20 minutes from my office. The yard had overgrown grass, and the kitchen cabinets were outdated, but the bones were solid. The roof was new. The furnace was only 3 years old. The price was $240,000, right at the top of my budget. I stood in the empty living room with afternoon sunlight streaming through the windows, and something clicked inside me. This was it. This was home. The closing was on a Thursday morning. I sat at a long conference table with Cheryl, the sellers, and a title company representative. I signed paper after paper, my hand cramping. When it was done, they handed me the keys. I walked outside to my car and sat there for 10 minutes, holding those keys, crying. Not sad tears. Relief, joy, pride. I'd done something that seemed impossible when I was 15 years old bussing tables. I'd bought a house, by myself, with money I'd earned. I took one photo on my phone, me holding the keys in front of the house. I looked tired and happy. I posted it to social media with a simple caption, "Dreams really do come true when you work for them." I didn't tag anyone. I didn't call anyone. I just wanted to share a moment of happiness. Within an hour, my phone exploded. Text messages poured in from numbers I hadn't heard from in years. Cousins, aunts, uncles, family friends. But they weren't congratulatory. How could you be so selfish? Your sister needs a house, and you just go buy one? Family takes care of family. You should be ashamed. My Aunt Patricia called and didn't even say hello. I'm disgusted with you. Your parents have been struggling to help Diane, and you go behind everyone's back and buy a house? You know she's been looking. I didn't know that, I said, stunned. Don't lie. Everyone knows. You did this on purpose to hurt her. She hung up before I could respond. My phone buzzed constantly. 47 texts in 2 hours. 12 missed calls. I started reading them, then stopped because my hands were shaking. Then my mother's text came through. How could you do this to Diane? You know she needs a house. My father called. I answered because I thought maybe, just maybe, he'd be different. You went behind our backs. he yelled before I could say hello. That house should go to your sister. She's been talking about buying a house for months. Dad, I've been saving for 12 years. You deliberately did this to hurt her. You're spiteful and selfish, and your mother and I are ashamed of you. He hung up. I sat on the floor of my new, empty house and tried to understand what was happening. The afternoon sun that had seemed so warm earlier now felt harsh. How had my personal achievement become an attack on my sister? Then Diane's message came through. It was long, paragraph after paragraph. I always knew you hated me. Mom and Dad are right about you. You only care about yourself. I've been looking at houses too, and you knew that, and you just had to beat me to it. You have a good job and money. I need this more than you do, but you don't care about anyone but yourself. You never have. You've always thought you were better than me because you have a job, and I'm still figuring things out. You have no idea how hard my life is. You breeze through everything, and I'm left struggling, and you just make it worse. I hope you're happy in your house, alone, because that's what you deserve. I read it 3 times. Each time, I got angrier. I'd worked since 15. I'd put myself through college. I'd saved every spare dollar for over a decade. And somehow, I was the villain. I tried to respond, tried to explain, but every time I typed something it felt pointless. No one wanted to hear the truth. They'd already decided I was wrong. The family group chat, which I rarely checked, was on fire. 73 messages all about me, how I was selfish, how I'd always been cold, how I thought I was too good for the family, how I owed Diane for all the emotional support she'd given me over the years. What emotional support? I couldn't remember a single time Diane had been there for me. I blocked the group chat. I blocked my aunts, my uncles, my cousins. I kept only my parents' numbers active, hoping they'd calm down and we could talk rationally. They didn't calm down. Over the next 2 weeks, my mother sent me articles about family loyalty, about sisters who supported each other, about the importance of putting others first. Each one felt like a tiny knife. My father sent short, harsh texts. Disappointed in you. Raised you better than this. Fix this situation. Diane sent updates about her house hunting, mentioning properties she couldn't afford, clearly trying to make me feel guilty. I tried to focus on moving in. I bought a used couch from a thrift store. I hung curtains. I painted my bedroom a soft blue. Every night, I came home to my house and felt this mix of pride and guilt that made my chest ache. Then, on a Saturday afternoon, 2 weeks after I bought the house, my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole and saw my parents standing there, and Diane, and a woman I didn't recognize holding a clipboard. I opened the door. "What's going on?" "We need to talk," my father said, pushing past me into my house. My mother and Diane followed. The woman with the clipboard smiled awkwardly. "I'm Jennifer, a real estate agent. Your parents asked me to assess the property." "Assess it for what?" My father turned to me. "We've talked to our lawyer and to Jennifer here. The process for transferring property between family members is fairly straightforward. We wanted to get the house appraised, so we know what we're working with." I felt like I'd been punched. Transferring property? What are you talking about? "You're going to sign the house over to Diane," my mother said, as if this were obvious. "It's the right thing to do. This is my house. I bought it with my money." "You can buy another one later," Diane said. "I need it now." Jennifer, the real estate agent, looked extremely uncomfortable. "I think maybe I should wait outside." "No, stay," my father said. "We need your professional opinion. What's this property worth?" I looked at Jennifer. "Please leave my house." She practically ran out the door. I turned to my family. "I'm not signing anything over to anyone. This house is mine. I saved 12 years for it." "You don't need a house this big," my mother said. "You're single. Diane could start a family here someday. This is a family home. Then she should buy her own family home." She can't, Diane shouted. You know I can't afford this. But you can. You make good money. It's not fair that you get a house and I don't. Life isn't fair, I said. I worked for this. My father's face went red. We've given you everything. We raised you, fed you, put a roof over your head. You owe this family. You owe your sister. You've given Diane everything. You gave me nothing. That's not true, my mother cried. We've always loved you both equally. Love isn't money, I said. But money is money, and you've given her hundreds of thousands of dollars while I worked my way through everything alone. Because you never needed help, my father yelled. You were always fine on your own. Your sister needed us. Did I look fine when I was working 2 jobs at 16? Did I look fine eating ramen for dinner every night in college? You never asked for help, my mother said softly. I shouldn't have had to ask. I was your child. We stood there in my empty living room, years of resentment hanging in the air. My father's voice went cold. If you don't do the right thing and give this house to your sister, we'll have no choice but to take legal action. I laughed. I actually laughed. Legal action? For what? Our lawyer says we have options. Family law is complicated. We'll figure it out. You're bluffing. He looked me dead in the eye. Try me. They left. I stood in my house, shaking, thinking there was no way they'd actually sue me. It was an empty threat meant to scare me. 3 days later, a process server knocked on my door and handed me legal papers. My parents were suing me for the house. Now, sitting in this courthouse, I run my thumb over the embossed seal on the lawsuit documents. The morning after I was served, I barely slept. I sat at my kitchen table at 3 a.m, reading the papers over and over, trying to make sense of the legal language. The lawsuit claimed I'd used family resources and emotional manipulation to purchase the home. It said I had a moral and legal obligation to provide for my sister's welfare. It demanded either the house be transferred to Diane's name, or I pay her the equivalent value, $240,000. At 7 a.m, I called my friend Angela. We'd known each other since high school, stayed loosely in touch over the years. She was a paralegal at a law firm downtown. They're actually suing you? She said, disbelief in her voice. Catherine, that's insane. I need a lawyer. Do you know anyone who handles this kind of thing? She gave me 3 names. The first 2 weren't taking new clients. The third was James Brennan, a family law attorney in his 50s, who agreed to meet with me that afternoon. His office was in a brick building near the courthouse where I'm sitting now. The waiting room had leather chairs and shelves of legal books. A receptionist offered me coffee. I was too nauseous to accept. James came out to greet me. He was tall with silver hair and sharp blue eyes. He shook my hand firmly and led me into his office. I laid out the entire story. He listened without interrupting, taking notes on a yellow legal pad. When I finished, he sat back in his chair. Do you have documentation of your finances? He asked. Everything. Bank statements, pay stubs, tax returns. I keep records. Good. I'll need the last 10 years if you have them. We need to prove every dollar that went into this house came from your own earnings. I nodded. So this lawsuit is ridiculous, right? They don't have a case? He tapped his pen on the desk. In a just world, this would be dismissed immediately, but family law can get messy, especially when emotions are involved. Judges sometimes try to find compromises to keep families together. I've seen stranger things happen. We need to be thorough. My stomach sank. You're saying I could actually lose my house? I'm saying we build the strongest case possible. You clearly have the truth on your side. Let's make sure the court sees that. Over the next week, I gathered everything. Bank statements showing steady deposits from my employers. Paycheck stubs dating back 13 years. Tax returns proving my income. Loan documents showing I'd financed my education. Receipts for every major purchase. I created a folder 3 inches thick. James reviewed it all and whistled low. This is impressive. You really never took a penny from them? Not a penny. Their lawsuit claims you benefited from family support throughout your life. This proves otherwise. But let's dig deeper. I'm going to request financial discovery from them. I want to see what they're claiming they gave you. He filed the paperwork. Meanwhile, the lawsuit moved forward. We had a preliminary hearing scheduled in 6 weeks. My parents tried to contact me multiple times. I didn't respond. My lawyer advised me not to speak to them directly. Every text, every voicemail went unanswered. This infuriated them. My father left a message saying I was being childish and proving their point about my selfishness. Diane posted on social media about family betrayal and people who forget where they came from. Her friends commented with supportive messages. My notifications filled with strangers telling me I was a terrible sister. I stopped checking social media entirely. 2 weeks into the legal process, Angela called me. Can we meet for coffee? I need to talk to you about something. We met at a cafe near her office. She looked nervous, stirring her latte without drinking it. I've been hearing things, she said finally. About your family. What kind of things? I stayed in touch with a few people from our hometown. Sarah Miller, remember her? She works at the grocery store where your mom shops. I nodded. She told me something weird. She said everyone in town knows Diane has been supporting you financially for years. I almost spit out my coffee. What? That's what people think. Diane's been telling everyone she sends you money, that she helped you pay for college, that she's bailed you out of financial trouble multiple times. The cafe spun around me. That's a complete lie. I know that. But the whole town believes it. That's why everyone's mad at you about the house. They think you've been taking Diane's money for years, and now you won't help her when she needs it. I put my head in my hands. Why would she lie about that? I don't know. But it gets worse. Sarah said she's heard Diane doesn't actually apply to most of the jobs she claims to interview for. She talks a big game about trying, but people who work at places she supposedly applied have never heard of her. So she's lying to my parents about job hunting too. It seems like it. I sat back, processing this. My entire extended family thought I was a freeloader who owed Diane everything. They had no idea I'd been working myself into the ground while Diane coasted on our parents' money and her own fabrications. There's one more thing, Angela said carefully. I don't know if this matters for your case, but Sarah mentioned your parents refinanced their house twice. They're apparently in pretty bad financial shape. There's talk they might lose the house. That explained everything. This wasn't just about fairness or family. My parents were in debt from supporting Diane, and they saw my house as a solution. If I gave it to Diane, she could sell it, and they could all dig themselves out of the hole they'd created. I told James everything at our next meeting. He leaned forward, interest sharp in his eyes. This is good. Well, not good for them, but good for our case. If we can prove a pattern of financial mismanagement and lies, it undermines their credibility. Let's see what comes back from the discovery. The documents arrived 2 weeks later. James and I sat in his office, spreading papers across his conference table. Financial records from my parents, bank statements, credit card bills, loan documents. I saw it all laid out in black and white. Monthly transfers to Diane. $1,200, like clockwork, going back 14 years. Car payments, insurance payments, credit card payments in Diane's name that my parents had been covering. A line of credit taken out to pay for Diane's sorority dues. A second mortgage on their house. A third mortgage 18 months ago. James added it up on his calculator. Over 14 years, they've given your sister approximately $270,000. I felt sick. And here's what they claim to give you. He pulled out another document. It was attached to their lawsuit. A handwritten list of supposed financial support they'd provided to me. College tuition, $45,000. Rental assistance, $12,000. Car payments, $8,000. Emergency loans, $6,000. All lies. Do they have proof of any of this? I asked. James flipped through more papers. They submitted bank transfers, receipts, canceled checks. My heart dropped. How? He pulled out copies, examined them closely. These are fake. The dates don't match the account numbers. The bank routing numbers changed in 2011, but these supposedly earlier transfers show the new routing number. See? I looked at where he pointed. He was right. They fabricated evidence, I said. Looks like it. Their lawyer probably doesn't even know. They likely put this together themselves. This is fraud, Catherine. This is serious. Can we use this? Absolutely. But let me keep digging. I want to know what else they're hiding. Over the next few days, James worked with a forensic accountant. They found more irregularities. The documents my parents submitted had been created recently, despite being dated years ago. Metadata from scanned files showed creation dates from the last month. Then James found something else. He called me into his office on a Friday afternoon. His face was grim. I need to show you something, and I need you to stay calm. He handed me a document. It was a life insurance policy. On me. Taken out when I was 17. Beneficiaries. My parents. Death benefit, $500,000. I didn't know about this, I whispered. Legally, they can take out a policy on a minor child. It's not unusual. But combined with everything else, he showed me another document. An email chain between my parents from 2 years ago, obtained through legal discovery. My father wrote, "Need to think about estate planning. Should we split everything 50-50 between the girls?" My mother's response, "Diane needs more. She's struggling. Catherine is so independent and successful. She won't need anything from us. Everything should go to Diane to secure her future." My father replied, "Agreed. Catherine has always been able to take care of herself." There it was, in writing. I'd never been seen as someone to invest in or support. I was the strong one who didn't need help, so why waste resources on me? I read the emails 3 times, each word cutting deeper. "There's one more," James said quietly. This one was from my mother to my father, sent 8 months ago. Worried about money. If something happened to Catherine, the life insurance would solve everything. I know that's a terrible thing to think, but I'm just being practical. She doesn't have kids or anything. At least the money would go to helping Diane build a life. I couldn't breathe. My own mother had thought about me dying as a financial solution. James let me sit in silence for a long moment. "They never saw me as their daughter," I finally said. "Just as someone who didn't need them." "I'm sorry," he said. "I know this is painful. But we now have a complete picture. They're in massive debt from enabling your sister. They fabricated evidence to support a fraudulent lawsuit. And they've been planning for years to exclude you from any family resources. We have enough to not only dismiss their case, but potentially countersue for defamation and legal costs." I nodded numbly. "The hearing is in 2 weeks. Are you ready for this?" "I don't have a choice, do I?" "No," he said. "But you have the truth, and that matters." I left his office and drove to my house. I sat in my driveway for 30 minutes before going inside. The house I'd dreamed of, saved for, finally bought. It didn't feel like a victory anymore. It felt like evidence of everything wrong with my family. But it was still mine, and I wasn't giving it up. The courthouse is filling up now. People stream past me carrying briefcases and files. Lawyers in suits talk in hushed tones. I watch them and think about everything James and I uncovered in those documents. After that awful meeting where I learned about the life insurance policy and my mother's horrifying email, I spent a week feeling numb. I went through the motions at work, came home to my house, and sat in the dark wondering how I'd ended up here. Angela checked on me daily. She brought groceries, made sure I was eating. One night, she sat with me on my thrift store couch and said, "Your family is twisted. You know that, right?" I'm starting to. You should be furious. I am. I'm just also sad. She squeezed my hand. You're going to win this. And then you're going to live your best life in this house while they figure out their own mess. But there were more discoveries to come. James called me 3 days before the hearing. I subpoenaed phone records and social media messages from Diane as part of our defense. You need to see what came back. I met him at his office again. He had printouts spread across his desk. Text messages. Screenshots from social media. These are from Diane to various friends over the past 3 years, he said, handing me the first stack. I read through them, my disbelief growing with each page. To a friend named Tasha. My parents are so gullible, lol. I just tell them I have interviews and they give me money for professional clothes. Haven't actually applied anywhere in months. To someone named Marcus. Playing up the anxiety card works every time. Mom cries and Dad writes another check. It's honestly too easy. To a friend named Becca. Catherine thinks she's so much better than me with her little job and her savings. Wait till she sees I'm getting a house without working for it at all. That'll show her. There were dozens more. Years of messages showing Diane had been deliberately manipulating our parents, lying about job searches, faking mental health crises to get money. It gets worse, James said. He handed me another stack. These were from the week before the lawsuit was filed. Diane to Tasha. My dad found a lawyer who says we might actually win. Can you imagine? I could get Catherine's house. I could sell it and live off the money for like 5 years minimum. Never have to work. Diane to Marcus. Catherine is going to lose her mind when she has to hand over that house. I can't wait to see her face. She deserves it for being such a snob all these years. Diane to Becca. If this works, I'm throwing the biggest party. You're invited. We'll celebrate at my new house that my stupid sister paid for. I set the papers down, my hands shaking. She planned this. She convinced our parents to sue me so she could profit from it. Yes. And there's more about you specifically. He showed me messages where Diane had told people she'd been sending me money for years. Detailed lies about loans she'd supposedly given me, rent she'd supposedly paid, emergencies she'd supposedly bailed me out of. She'd constructed an entire fake history of supporting me financially. She told everyone in your hometown that you owed her, James said. That's why your extended family turned on you so quickly. They genuinely believe Diane has been supporting you all these years. Why would she do that? Control. Manipulation. Maybe jealousy. She couldn't stand that you were successful through your own effort, so she tried to claim credit for it. I thought about every family gathering where Diane had played the victim, where our parents had defended her, where I'd been painted as the cold, unfeeling sister. It had all been orchestrated. Can we use these in court? Absolutely. These messages prove intent to defraud, prove she's been lying to your parents, and prove the entire basis for their lawsuit is built on fabrications. Judge Holbrook is going to have a field day with this. Who's Judge Holbrook? Patricia Holbrook. She's presiding over your case. She's tough, fair, and does not tolerate lies in her courtroom. Your parents picked the wrong judge to try this with. Over the weekend before the hearing, I tried to prepare myself mentally. James had coached me on what to expect. My parents' lawyer would try to paint me as selfish. They'd lean heavily on the fabricated documents showing they'd supported me. They'd emphasize Diane's mental health struggles to gain sympathy. Then we'd present the truth. My financial records, the proof of their fabrications, Diane's messages, the life insurance policy, and estate planning emails. It's going to be brutal, James warned. They're going to be humiliated in front of the court. Are you okay with that? I thought about my mother's email discussing how convenient it would be if I died. I thought about years of being invisible while my sister was coddled. I thought about working 2 jobs as a teenager while Diane got a new car. I'm okay with it, I said. Sunday night I couldn't sleep. I walked through my house, touching the walls I'd painted, looking at the small improvements I'd made. A new light fixture in the kitchen. Shelves I'd hung in the bedroom. plants on the windowsill slowly coming back to life. This house represented everything I'd built on my own. Every shift at the diner, every late night studying, every sacrifice, every choice to save instead of spend. I wasn't losing it. Not to anyone. Monday morning, I put on the only suit I owned, a navy blue one I'd bought secondhand for job interviews years ago. I met James at the courthouse at 8:30. The hearing was scheduled for 9. My parents were already there with their lawyer, a man in an expensive suit who looked bored. Diane was with them, wearing a dress I recognized from a department store that cost more than my weekly grocery budget. She didn't look at me. My mother was crying softly. My father looked angry. When he saw me, his face hardened. "Last chance," he said, walking over. "Drop this nonsense and do the right thing." "The right thing is defending what's mine," I said. "You're destroying this family." "I'm not the one who filed a lawsuit." He turned away. We all filed into the courtroom. It was smaller than I expected, with wooden benches and fluorescent lights. Judge Patricia Holbrook sat at the bench, a woman in her 60s with gray hair pulled back severely and sharp, intelligent eyes. "Let's begin," she said. The bailiff calls the court to order. Judge Holbrook reviews the file in front of her, then looks up at both parties. My parents sit on one side with their lawyer. I sit with James on the other. The distance between us feels like a canyon. "This is a civil suit," Judge Holbrook begins, brought by Margaret and Donald Harper against their daughter, Catherine Harper, regarding the ownership of a residential property. "Mr. Stevens, you're representing the plaintiffs?" Their lawyer stands. He's younger than I thought, maybe 40, with slicked back hair and a suit that probably cost a month of my salary. "Yes, Your Honor." Robert Stevens. "Proceed with your opening statement." Stevens clears his throat. "Your Honor, this case is about family responsibility and moral obligation. The plaintiffs, Margaret and Donald Harper, have spent their entire lives supporting their 2 daughters, providing for them equally, nurturing them through all of life's challenges. Their younger daughter, the defendant Catherine, has recently purchased a home, a significant financial achievement. Their older daughter, Diane, has struggled with mental health issues and has not had the same opportunities. I bite the inside of my cheek to keep from reacting. The plaintiffs believe, and we will demonstrate, that Catherine benefited significantly from family resources throughout her life. College tuition, rental assistance, emergency funds. Their support enabled her current success. Now that her sister needs help, Catherine has refused to provide any assistance despite having the means to do so. The plaintiffs are asking this court to recognize that the property in question should rightfully go to Diane, who needs it, or that Catherine should provide equivalent compensation. He sits down, looking satisfied with himself. Judge Holbrook turns to James. "Mr. Brennan?" James stands, and his voice is calm and clear. "Your Honor, this case is built entirely on falsehoods. The plaintiffs claim they supported Miss Harper throughout her life. The evidence will show they did not provide her with a single dollar. Miss Harper has worked since age 15, put herself through college, and saved for 12 years to purchase her home. Every cent came from her own labor. Meanwhile, the plaintiffs have provided their other daughter with approximately $270,000 over 14 years, enabling a lifestyle that requires no employment. The plaintiffs are in severe financial distress from their own choices and are attempting to use the court system to seize assets from their financially responsible daughter. This lawsuit is not only without merit, it involves fabricated evidence and fraud. We will prove all of this." The temperature in the courtroom seems to drop. My mother's crying gets louder. My father stares straight ahead. "Let's hear your evidence, Mr. Stevens," Judge Holbrook says. Stevens calls my father to the stand first. My dad walks up, gets sworn in, sits down looking righteous and wronged. "Mr. Harper, can you describe your relationship with your daughter, Catherine?" "I love both my daughters equally," my father says. "We raised them to be good people, to take care of each other. Catherine was always the independent one. Bright, capable. We helped her through school, gave her money when she needed it, tried to set her up for success. Can you provide examples of this financial support? Sure. We paid her college tuition. She went to community college and then state university. We covered that. We helped with her rent when she was in her early 20s. We gave her money for emergencies, car repairs, medical bills. Over the years, probably $70,000, $80,000. My fingernails dig into my palms. And your other daughter, Diane? Diane has had a harder time. She struggles with anxiety and depression. We've supported her too, of course. Maybe a bit more because she needs it. But we've tried to be fair. Mr. Harper, when Catherine bought her house, how did that make you feel? Betrayed, he says immediately. She knew her sister was looking for a house too. She knew Diane's situation, and she just went ahead and bought one without even discussing it with the family. We'd asked her to help Diane, just co-sign, so Diane could get approved for a mortgage. Catherine refused. That's when we realized she wasn't the person we thought she was. Stevens nods sympathetically. So you felt you had no choice but to pursue legal action? We tried everything else. We begged her to help her sister. She wouldn't listen. This was our last resort. Stevens sits. James stands for cross-examination. Mr. Harper, you testified you gave Catherine $70,000 to $80,000 over the years. Do you have bank records proving these transactions? My father shifts. We have some records, yes. Some? How many transactions are we talking about? I don't remember exactly. Many. Your Honor, I'd like to present Defense Exhibit A. James hands papers to the bailiff, who passes copies to the judge and to Stevens. These are Miss Harper's complete bank records for the past 13 years. Mr. Harper, can you point out a single deposit from you or your wife? My father looks at the papers. His face goes red. We gave her cash sometimes. Cash. $70,000 in cash. Over how many transactions? I don't remember. You don't remember giving your daughter $70,000 in cash? It was over many years. James pulls out another document. This is your bank records for the same period. Can you show me withdrawals that correspond to these alleged cash gifts? My father's lawyer stands. Objection, Your Honor. These financial records are private. Mr. Stevens, you submitted financial claims. The defense has the right to verify them. Overruled. Mr. Harper, please answer. My father looks at the papers, flipping through them. I don't have them in front of me right now. Because they don't exist? James says simply. You never gave your daughter any money, did you? We helped her in other ways. Name one specific instance where you provided Catherine with financial assistance. Silence. Mr. Harper? I can't remember specific dates. Can you remember a single specific instance? Ever? More silence. Let me show you something else. James presents another exhibit. These are documents you submitted to the court claiming you paid Catherine's college tuition, $45,000. But this bank routing number didn't exist until 2011. These transactions are dated 2006 through 2010. Can you explain that? My father's face goes pale. I must have gotten the dates wrong. Or you fabricated these documents entirely. These were created recently and backdated. That's fraud, Mr. Harper. Objection. Stevens is on his feet. Your Honor, these are serious accusations. Mr. Brennan, do you have proof of fabrication? Judge Holbrook asks. Yes, Your Honor. We had a forensic accountant examine the documents. The metadata shows they were created last month, despite being dated years ago. I have the full report. He hands it to the bailiff. Judge Holbrook reads it, her expression growing darker. Mr. Harper, did you create fake documents to support this lawsuit? She asks directly. My father looks at his lawyer, who looks stunned. I might have made some errors in my record-keeping. That's not an answer. Did you fabricate evidence? I was trying to prove what we actually did for her, even if I couldn't find the exact records. So, yes, You fabricated evidence. Judge Holbrook looks disgusted. Step down. My father returns to his seat, his face bright red. Stevens calls my mother next. She's crying before she even gets to the stand. Mrs. Harper, tell us about your relationship with Catherine. I love her so much, my mother sobs. Both my girls. I just want them to be happy and take care of each other. Did you support Catherine financially over the years? Yes, of course. We gave her money for school, for rent. We tried to help both girls equally. And how do you feel about her refusing to help Diane? It breaks my heart. Sisters should help each other. Diane needs stability. She's been struggling so much with her mental health. When we asked Catherine to help, she just said no. Like Diane didn't matter. Like family didn't matter. Stephen sits. James approaches. Mrs. Harper, I'm going to ask you the same question I asked your husband. Can you name one specific instance where you gave Catherine money? My mother wipes her eyes. There were so many times. Name one. I can't remember every single time. One time. That's all I'm asking. She can't answer. James presents more bank records. Your records show regular transfers to your daughter Diane. $1,200 per month for 14 years. That's 216 months. $264,000 in transfers alone, not including direct payments of her bills. Where are the transfers to Catherine? Catherine didn't need them. She was doing fine. So you didn't give her money? We would have if she'd asked. Did she ever ask? No, because she was 15 years old working in a diner to buy school supplies. My mother's face crumples. She wanted to be independent. She was a child. Your child. And you chose not to support her while pouring hundreds of thousands into your other daughter, correct? We did what we thought was best. For Diane. Not for Catherine. My mother doesn't answer. James excuses her. Then Stevens calls Diane to the stand. My sister walks up, and I see her clearly for maybe the first time in years. She's always been pretty, with our mother's dark hair and our father's height. But there's something brittle about her now. She looks like someone who's never been told no. Diane, tell us about your relationship with your sister, Stevens says. Diane dabs at her eyes, though I don't see tears. Catherine and I used to be close when we were kids, but as we got older, she became more distant. She always acted like she was better than me because she had a job, and I was still figuring out my path. I have severe anxiety and depression. I've been in and out of therapy. It's been really hard for me. Did you support Catherine over the years? I sit up straighter. This is the lie Angela warned me about. I tried to, Diane says. I sent her money when I could. Emotionally, I was always there for her. I gave her advice, supported her through hard times. And when she bought the house, I was happy for her at first. But then I realized she'd done it knowing I was looking for a house, too. I needed it more than her. I don't have a high-paying job. I don't have her opportunities. And she just didn't care. Stevens nods. Thank you. James stands for cross-examination, and something in his expression makes me sit forward. Diane, you testified you sent Catherine money over the years. How much? I don't know exactly. A few thousand, probably. Can you show me bank records of these transfers? I gave her cash mostly. Cash. From what income? Diane hesitates. My job. What job was that? I've had several jobs. Name your current employee. I'm between jobs right now. How long have you been between jobs? A few months. James pulls out a document. This is your employment history from your Social Security records. Your last reported employment was 14 months ago, at a coffee shop for 6 weeks. Before that, 18 months at a retail store, for 8 weeks. Before that, a gap of 2 years. In the past 10 years, you've worked a total of 7 months. Is that correct? Diane's face goes red. I've had interviews. How many interviews in the past 6 months? I don't know. Several. Defense Exhibit F, Your Honor. James hands over papers. This is from the state's job search website. Diane's account shows she hasn't submitted a single application in 18 months. Her last login was 643 days ago. Were you lying about the interviews? I applied in person to some places. Name one. I don't remember. You don't remember where you applied for a job? It's been stressful. My anxiety makes it hard to remember. I see. Let's talk about something else. James pulls out a thick stack of papers. These are your text messages and social media private messages obtained through subpoena. I'd like to read a few. To your friend Tasha, dated 6 months ago. My parents are so gullible. I just tell them I have interviews and they give me money for professional clothes. Haven't actually applied anywhere in months. Did you write that? Diane's face drains of color. I don't remember. To Marcus 4 months ago. Playing up the anxiety card works every time. Mom cries and Dad writes another check. It's honestly too easy. Did you write that? Those messages were taken out of context. What's the context that makes lying to your parents acceptable? Diane's lawyer jumps up. Objection! Argumentative! Sustained, Judge Holbrook says, but she's staring at Diane with cold eyes. James continues. One more. To Becca, 1 week before this lawsuit was filed. My dad found a lawyer who says we might actually win. Can you imagine? I could get Catherine's house. I could sell it and live off the money for years. Never have to work. Did you write that? The courtroom is dead silent. Diane's voice is barely a whisper. Yes. So this entire lawsuit was your idea? To get your sister's house so you could sell it and avoid working? That's not what I meant. It's exactly what you wrote. You manipulated your parents into filing a fraudulent lawsuit so you could profit from your sister's hard work, correct? No. These are your words, Diane. Shall I read more? I have dozens of messages where you brag about manipulating your parents, lying about job searches, and planning to take Catherine's house. Diane is crying now, real tears. You don't understand what it's like to struggle. I understand your sister worked 2 jobs as a teenager while you got a new car. I understand she put herself through college while your parents paid your way. I understand she saved for 12 years for a house while you lived off your parents' money without working, and I understand you tried to steal that house through legal fraud. Objection. Stevens is standing, his face red. Withdrawn, James says, sitting down. No further questions. Judge Holbrook calls a 15-minute recess. I walk out of the courtroom on shaking legs. James follows me. We've got them, he says quietly. This is over. I lean against the wall, trying to catch my breath. Through the courthouse windows, I can see the sunny day outside, people walking past with coffee, living normal lives. My parents come out of the courtroom. My mother tries to approach me. Catherine, please. We didn't know about Diane's messages. We really thought she was trying. I look at her. You thought what you wanted to think. Because it was easier than holding her accountable. We're your parents. We love you. You loved the idea of me being fine without you. You loved not having to help me. You loved that I was easy. My father joins us. This is getting out of hand. Maybe we should all just drop this and move on. You sued me, I say. You fabricated evidence. You tried to take my house, and now you want to move on? We made mistakes, he says stiffly. Yes, you did. The bailiff calls us back inside. We take our seats again. Judge Holbrook looks tired and angry. She reviews her notes, then looks up at both parties. I've heard enough testimony to make a ruling, she says. But first, I want to make something clear. This court does not appreciate having its time wasted with fraudulent claims. Mr. and Mrs. Harper, you submitted fabricated documents. That's not an error in record-keeping. That's a crime. My father tries to speak, but she holds up her hand. I'm not finished. You brought your daughter to court claiming she owed you, claiming you'd supported her, when the evidence clearly shows you provided her with nothing while giving her sister hundreds of thousands of dollars. You enabled one daughter's complete financial dependence while ignoring the other daughter's struggles. And now you want that ignored daughter to fix your financial problems by giving up the home she earned herself. My mother is sobbing openly now. As for you, Miss Diane Harper, Judge Holbrook turns her sharp gaze on my sister. Your messages show a pattern of manipulation and fraud. You lied to your parents about job searching. You manipulated them into filing this lawsuit. You planned to profit from your sister's hard work. Your behavior is reprehensible. Diane stares at her lap. This lawsuit is dismissed with prejudice, meaning it cannot be refiled. The plaintiffs are ordered to pay the defendants' legal fees. Miss Harper, she looks at me, you have the option to pursue defamation charges based on the false claims made about you. I'll leave that to your discretion. But I want to be clear. You owe your family nothing. This house is yours, purchased with your own money, and no one has any legal or moral claim to it. She bangs her gavel. We're adjourned. I sit there, stunned. It's over. I won. James shakes my hand. Congratulations. I'll file the paperwork for the legal fees. Should get about $8,500 back. Outside the courtroom, my parents are standing with Diane and their lawyer. Stevens looks furious. He's talking to them in harsh, low tones, probably angry about being given fake documents without knowing it. I walk past them toward the exit. Catherine, wait. It's my father. I stop, but don't turn around. We didn't know, he says. About Diane's messages, about the lies. Yes, you did. You just didn't want to know. That's not fair. I turn to face them. All three of them look broken. My mother's face is blotchy from crying. My father looks older than I've ever seen him. Diane won't make eye contact. You know what's not fair, I say quietly. Working 2 jobs at 16 while my sister got everything handed to her. Eating ramen for dinner in college while she went on spring break trips. Saving for 12 years while she spent your money like water. And then being sued for finally achieving something. We did our best, my mother whispers. Your best wasn't equal. It wasn't even close. You gave her everything, and me nothing. And then you blamed me for succeeding without you. We were trying to help her, my father says. You were enabling her. There's a difference. And now you're all in trouble because of it. Diane finally speaks. So you're just going to walk away? Leave us to deal with this? Yes, I say. That's exactly what I'm going to do. You're all adults. Figure it out. Some sister you are, Diane spits. I'm the sister who worked for everything I have. You should try it sometime. I walk away. James is waiting by his car. You okay? He asks. Getting there. He gives me a ride back to my car at his office. We shake hands, and he tells me he'll be in touch about the fee reimbursement. I drive home to my house. My house. Still mine. Always mine. 3 weeks pass before I hear from my parents again. I spend that time settling into life without the lawsuit hanging over me. The stress I'd been carrying melts away gradually, like snow in spring. I paint my bedroom the soft blue I'd planned. I plant tomatoes and herbs in the backyard. I buy a second-hand rocking chair for the front porch and sit there in the evenings with a book watching fireflies. Angela comes over for dinner one Friday. We eat pasta on my thrift store dishes and drink cheap wine on my couch. How are you feeling? She asks. Lighter, I say. Like I can finally breathe. You know the whole hometown is talking about the trial, right? I figured. Diane's story fell apart. Everyone knows now she was lying about supporting you. Some people feel bad for believing her. Others are just embarrassed they got fooled. And my parents? They're keeping a low profile. I heard they're seeing a financial counselor, trying to get their debt under control. And supposedly, Diane actually got a job at a call center. That surprises me. Really? Apparently your dad told her she had 6 months to get employed and moved out, or they were selling the house and downsizing to an apartment. She couldn't stay if they did that. So she actually applied and got hired. Good for her, I guess. You don't sound convinced. I swirl my wine. I hope she learns something from this. I hope they all do. But I'm not holding my breath. The letter arrives on a Tuesday. It's in my mother's handwriting, addressed to me in careful script. I almost throw it away unopened, but something makes me sit down at my kitchen table and read it. Dear Catherine, it begins. I don't expect you to forgive us. I'm not sure I deserve it, but I need you to know that I'm sorry. Your father and I have been meeting with a counselor, talking through our mistakes. We see now how badly we failed you. We told ourselves you were fine, that you didn't need help because you were so capable. But the truth is, we took the easy path. Supporting Diane felt good. We felt needed. You never needed us, or so we thought. But children shouldn't have to ask for their parents' support. We should have given it freely. We should have celebrated your independence while still being there for you. We should have said no to Diane and yes to you. We're selling the house. The debt is too much. We're moving to a smaller place and cutting Diane off financially. She's working now. We're hoping she'll learn what you learned young, the value of earning your own way. I don't know if we can ever repair our relationship with you, but I want you to know that I see you now. I see how hard you worked. I see what you built. And I'm proud of you, even though I have no right to be. I hope someday you can find peace with us. Love, Mom. I read it twice, then fold it and put it in a drawer. I'm not ready to respond. Maybe I never will be. But something in the letter feels genuine in a way my mother's words never have before. September comes. The leaves start to turn. I host my first real dinner party at my house. Angela, of course. James, my lawyer, who's become a mentor and friend. A few coworkers. My neighbor Carol, a retired teacher who brought me cookies when I first moved in. We crowd around my small dining table, eating roast chicken and vegetables from my garden. The conversation flows easily. People laugh. Someone tells a story. Someone else offers more wine. This, I think, is what I was saving for. Not just walls and a roof. A place to build a life. A place to choose who I surround myself with. After everyone leaves, I sit on my porch in the dark. The neighborhood is quiet. A dog barks somewhere. Cars pass occasionally. The air smells like autumn. I think about the girl I was at 15, bussing tables and dreaming of something better. I think about all the years of work, all the late nights and early mornings, all the sacrifices. I think about my parents and sister, about the dysfunction I was raised in, about how I almost let them take this from me. But mostly, I think about what I learned. I learned that love isn't about sacrifice that destroys you. Real love celebrates your success, not resents it. My parents confused enabling with helping, and it hurt all of us. They gave Diane everything and taught her nothing. They gave me nothing and forced me to teach myself. I learned that the greatest gift I gave myself wasn't this house. It was the boundary. The moment I said no to their demands, I said yes to my own worth. I stopped letting them define what I owed, what I deserved, who I was supposed to be. I learned that some people will never see your value, and that's their loss, not yours. I could have worked twice as hard, earned twice as much, achieved twice as much, and my parents still would have seen me as the one who didn't need them. That was never about me. It was about what they needed to believe to justify their choices. I learned that you don't owe anyone your dreams just because they failed to build their own. Diane's struggles were real, but they weren't my responsibility to solve. My parents' financial problems were real, but they weren't mine to fix. Everyone is responsible for their own life. I couldn't save them by destroying myself. And I learned that sometimes the family you choose matters more than the family you were born into. Angela, who checked on me every day during the lawsuit. James, who fought for me when my own parents wouldn't. Carol, my neighbor, who barely knew me but still brought cookies and kindness. The friends around my table tonight. These people showed up for me in ways my blood family never did. I'm proud of who I've become. Not because I own a house, though that's meaningful. Not because I won the lawsuit, though that was necessary. I'm proud because I own my choices. I set boundaries. I fought for myself when no one else would. I built a life based on my values, not on someone else's expectations. My parents sent a card for Thanksgiving. Just a card, no letter. Thinking of you, it said. They included a small gift card for a plant nursery, $50. I used it to buy rose bushes for my front yard. When I planted them, I thought about how they'll bloom next spring, how I'll be here to see them, how this is my home, my roots, my future. Diane and I haven't spoken since the trial. I heard through Angela that she's still working at the call center, that she moved into a small apartment with a roommate, that she's learning to budget for the first time in her life. I hope she's learning other things too, but that's her journey, not mine. My parents have respected my space. Maybe the counseling is helping. Maybe they're learning to see me as someone other than the strong one who doesn't need them. Maybe not. Either way, I'm building my life with or without their approval. One evening, in late November, I'm raking leaves in my front yard when Carol walks over with her terrier. "Beautiful evening," she says. "It really is. You seem happy here." I lean on my rake and look at my house. The blue door I painted last month. The window boxes where I'll plant flowers next spring. The porch light glowing warm in the dusk. I am happy, I say, and I mean it. That night, I make myself dinner. Nothing fancy. Spaghetti with sauce from a jar, a salad from my garden. I eat at my kitchen table, the one I bought at a yard sale, and refinished myself. Every scratch and imperfection tells a story now. After dinner, I wash my dishes by hand in my sink, looking out my window at my backyard. I think about everything that had to happen for me to be here. All the work, all the pain, all the rejection, all the fighting. And I think about what comes next. Maybe I'll adopt a dog. Maybe I'll take up woodworking in the garage. Maybe I'll host more dinners, fill this house with laughter and friendship. Maybe I'll eventually forgive my parents, or maybe I won't. Maybe Diane and I will talk again someday, or maybe we won't. The beautiful thing is, it's all up to me now. My house, my choices, my life. I dry the last dish and put it away. Through the window, the moon is rising over the trees in my backyard. My yard, my trees, my view. I earned every bit of this, and that's something no one can ever take from me. I think about you, listening to this story. Maybe you've dealt with family members who took advantage of your kindness. Maybe you've worked hard for something, only to have others try to claim credit or take it away. Maybe you've been the responsible one, while someone else got all the support. Or maybe you're just tired of feeling like you owe people who never gave you anything. Here's what I want you to know. You don't owe anyone your dreams. You don't owe anyone your hard-earned success. Setting boundaries doesn't make you selfish. It makes you healthy. Fighting for what's yours doesn't make you cruel. It makes you strong. Build your life on your own terms. Surround yourself with people who celebrate your wins, not people who resent them. And when someone tries to tear down what you've built, remember that you have every right to defend it. You are not responsible for fixing other people's lives at the expense of your own. You deserve to keep what you've earned, and you deserve peace. So here's my question for you. Have you ever had to set a boundary with family that changed your relationship forever? How did you find the courage to do it? I'd love to hear your story in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, please hit that like button, subscribe for more real-life stories about overcoming family challenges, and share this with someone who needs to hear that it's okay to put themselves first sometimes. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it brought you some comfort, some strength, or at least the knowledge that you're not alone in dealing with difficult family dynamics. Take care of yourself. You deserve it.